After failing to fulfill the promise of repealing the Affordable Care Act, this is the last big push for the president and his party to actually deliver this year. If they fail, it could spell absolute political disaster. One of the people the president is counting on to pass this tax cut legislation, Congressman Matt Gaetz, Republican from Florida. He said that Congress must pass tax reform this year. He joins me now. Congressman, you were a no on the budget resolution, which was really interesting to me because I think it was a day or two after my show. You said it was basically liberal and that it didn't cut spending enough. So here's my question to you. Last time you were on, you said the reason this is going to be deficit neutral is because we got all these cuts on the spending side. You then voted against the budget resolution because the cuts didn't materialize. So how could you vote for the tax cuts in good conscience?
Well, hope springs eternal, Chris. My hope is that we'll be able to repeal the individual mandate. That will cut spending. And I'm also hopeful that some of our friends in the Senate, like Senator Corker and Senator Flake, will join us to actually cut the spending that is hollowing this country out. But the bottom line is, Chris, we've got to get these tax cuts passed to rescue the American people.
Right, but those two things are in tension, right? So if you got to get them passed no matter what, that means you're a vote yes no matter what, even if the spending cuts don't materialize. Whereas the first part, you say, well, here's other places we can get paid for, is repeal the individual mandate, cut spending on other stuff. My question to you is there a threshold for your yes vote where this thing cannot be increasing the deficit by, say, $1.5 trillion like it now is projected to?
Well, Speaker Ryan has given me a commitment that we'll be doing spending reform in the next budget resolution. The Senate kind of likes to operate in a linear fashion rather than in a sequential fashion. And so, look, I think we need to do both,
wait a
Chris.
second.
Hey, Chris, if we go have a bill to cut spending, are you going to endorse it on this show? Are you going to be supportive of cutting spending so that we can actually deal with these deficit problems? Of course, no liberals will.
No,
you know what? If we had some bipartisan cooperation on spending reform,
Congressman,
we could actually deal with these deficit problems.
Let's be clear here. I don't think the deficit's a problem. I didn't think it was a problem during Barack Obama's tenure. I don't think it's a problem now. If you guys want to increase the deficit, that's fine by me. I'm asking you because you think the deficit's a problem. Because
I do. I want to cut spending and I want to cut taxes. There's no amount of spending cuts or tax cuts alone that are going to deal with the deficit. We have to do both.
You realize
the question
you're going to
is whether or not it's sequential or whether or not it's linear.
And you realize you were smart enough to know this. You know you're going to get rolled on this. If you say, yes, I'm a yes on the tax cut votes, we're going to get the spending cuts later. How long have you and I been paying attention to American politics where it's always tax cuts now, spending cuts later, and the spending cuts never come? You know that.
Well, Chris, I think the last time we had real tax reform, you and I were in kindergarten, and so I think it's important to recognize how challenging that's going to be. And so it's appropriate for us to focus on tax reform, get the economy moving again, rescue the American people from the Obama economy, where we had stagnant wages, limited investment, and we really didn't have the opportunity for people to prosper. Let's unlock the American economy first, and then I'm going to be one of the loudest voices in Congress to cut spending, and I hope Democrats will join me.
So what I hear from you is you're yes. So let's talk about the stagnant wages, which I absolutely agree with you was the biggest problem of the Obama economy. It's the biggest problem now. You've got a tax plan where all of the tax cuts for capital, right, the corporate tax cuts are permanent. The wage stuff is all temporary. Why is that okay? If your priority are American families that have kids, all this stuff you're doing for them, but those are temporary. Those might go away. But corporations get the permanent one. Doesn't that say what your priorities really are?
Absolutely not, Chris. We've got one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world. That's a wet blanket over the American economy. And our current corporate tax rate is one of the reasons why we don't have wage growth.
So when we get the evidence for that? What's the evidence for that?
Well, the fact that when we've had the highest corporate tax rate in the world, we haven't had the wage growth we've wanted. You just said that. You just said the problem in the Obama economy was that people didn't make more money. Let's try something different. That's why the American people voted for Republicans and voted for President Trump. We can have higher wages if we bring more capital that's currently overseas back into this country and inject it into the American economy.
Let's be clear here. This economy is awash in capital. There are people who run around Silicon Valley getting hundreds of $millions investments for juicing companies that go bust. There is capital coming out of the ears of everyone. There is capital sloshing around global financial markets. What people don't have is money in their pocket to take home from wages. And what your tax plan is doing is cutting money on capital, hoping it trickles down to those people. Can you understand why they're skeptical?
I understand that your constituency is largely in Silicon Valley, but in Main Street America, we don't see that we're flush in capital. And one of the main reasons is that the Obama economy had so many regulations. It had Dodd-Frank, the challenges of Obamacare, and those are major contributors to the economic stagnation that we're trying to rescue the American people from with this fantastic tax cut.
Congressman, I am going to make you this pledge. If this thing passes and we see real wage growth a year from now, I will have you on this show to take an enormous victory lap. All right?
I look forward